Welcome to the Obvious Podcast, episode number 92. I'm Sonny Macon, COO at ABC Florida East Coast.
And I'm Peter Daiga, President and CEO at the ABC Florida East Coast.
You are watching or listening to the Obvious Podcast, where all opinions expressed are our own unless we say otherwise.
Love the show? Subscribe on any major podcast platform or watch us in action on YouTube. Follow the Obvious Podcast on Instagram and Truth Social and now on TikTok and X. So all the links you need are in the show notes, and you can reach out to us at any time at theobvious@abceastflorida.com. Help others find us by doing a review wherever you listen, and that would help us spread the word about the Obvious Podcast.
Great show, guys. We're 92 episodes.
So, all right. So what's up this week? Our part two?
Our part two. So if you haven't listened to last Friday's episode, which is part one of the hidden dangers your organization faces, you really should listen to that because I think it'll give you the context for this show.
So, but what am I missing, or what did you want to add?
So, to your point about how do we correctly identify threats, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think you will never be able to correctly identify threats if you don't have a holistic understanding of what success is as an organization, right?
That's interesting.
So I think you have to almost go backwards. You have to do a really, really, really thorough.
I'm reminded of past episodes about mission and clarity of mission.
Exactly.
And,
and how we, that our whole series on communication, right?
Yeah.
The whole point, I think, is if you're able to, and it's not just you as leaders, but really your whole staff, your executive board, your leadership board. Like if everybody sort of understands the definition of success, I think us as executives have a responsibility and the ability to really analyze risks on how is that success going to be impacted by macro risks, micro risks. You kind of understand whether it's legislative, whether it's business, whether it's economic trends, whatever it is. I think the idea of accurately, and there's obviously external risks and internal risks, right? You can also talk about that. Culture, right? Your own people. Negativity, people who aren't, think something as basic as fraud or something as basic as I was listening to this podcast on Costco, and I'm fascinated by Costco's business model. Costco has, they call it in retail, they call it shrinkage, which is their sort of loss rate, their thrift rate. Costco's loss rate is 0.15% of their gross sales.
that sounds pretty impressive.
The lowest,
what's industry standard?
Lowest in the industry by far, huge difference
I'm
than
sure
anybody else.
That doesn't happen by chance.
No, that doesn't happen by chance. One of the things on this podcast, it's a really great podcast. It's called Acquired, and they did pick a company, and it's like a 4-hour show on one.
So somebody there has assessed risk.
Exactly. Exactly. So
and identified that as
hourly employees. What's the average hourly wage of a Walmart employee? $19 an hour. Okay. Average hourly wage of a Costco employee, $26 an hour.
Okay.
But it's not just an hourly wage issue. Costco employees who are hourly get a 401k with matching, not grants. What's the word I'm looking for?
Profit sharing or matching
contributions.
Yeah.
Matching contributions to the 401k.
Okay.
They also get some of the best healthcare in the industry. Even if you're an hourly employee, you get access to the healthcare, and obviously, we subsidize the premium. They also subsidize the premium, and it's apparently amazing healthcare. So their average employee stays with them over 12 years.
Wow.
Right? That's their sort of average, and people don't leave. And because they don't leave, and because they're so well taken care of, they have the lowest loss rate when it comes to theft and fraud in the retail business. And I think about that, and I think about how they have sort of removed an internal threat by having great macro policies, right? And you and I talk about this all the time in terms of how we manage our people, and because we have 33 full-time employees, we have 66, 67 part-time instructors. There's a lot of people coming in and out of the organization. There's a lot of resources being used up. There's materials and tools and all sorts of things. And how do we, how do we protect that? How do we protect that investment that we make? And so there's this whole idea that you can take care of your people. And I think Costco really is a great example of that. That you can take care of your people and they will take care of your business. But
So we, in our role, kind of have to worry about two, as for the industry, for one, right? And the kind of the way we evolve in terms of who we are as an organization and what we provide and what we do for our members in our industry. So assessing that risk. But then you also have internally as an organization, so I mean, we really have.
So we got external risk, internal risk, macro, micro, governmental risk, policy risk. There's all sorts of risks that we have to analyze. And so that's why it's so important that we do it accurately, but then you really can't understand that if you don't understand how you're measuring your success, right? So that was kind of my whole point. And I think this applies to any organization. You run a construction company, you run a cleaning business, whatever it is, you kind of have to get a really good handle on what your metrics of success are, and how you measure your KPIs or your OKRs.
So I talked about a thing or two in terms of on the one side of the ledger on things to pursue to make sure that you have in order to minimize that. What are some of the things to avoid?
Right.
In your mind,
as an organization?
Yeah. Either. Just to avoid these pitfalls, to avoid these occasions where a smart guy like Tucker Carlson, makes the wrong conclusion.
Right.
I mean, what are the kind of things, how did that happen? What could you have avoided to actually minimize the chance of falling into that? I'm thinking of things like, I don't know, conflict of interest. We talk a lot about.
We talk a lot about conflict of interest. And it's not just, as you say all the time, it's not just a financial element to it, right?
Yeah. In most cases, when we're talking about it, that's not what we're talking about. That's the obvious.
That's the obvious.
Thing, but not necessarily.
But really, the whole idea, I think, you can talk about people, right?
Okay.
So you can have a culture that is focused on one thing. You can have a strategy that's focused on one thing, but your people bring a different culture. And again, and I say this all the time, culture will eat strategy for breakfast, right? Not my saying, heard it in grad school. So you have to, or we have to, and we do this all the time. We're particularly focused on people who might be hitting their metrics, might have great numbers, might be successful in their role, but are bad for the culture. And there's a big price to pay for that.
Those are the ones that are usually shocked.
Right. Because and that's happened to us twice now, where we've taken people that were sort of hitting the metrics, but were bad for the culture. And
they're not only shocked, but sometimes even your leadership is shocked because the culture sometimes can be very subtle. Or you're trying to be take action, before the fruit or the vegetables rotten, or the culture is
a long-term, short-term thinking, right? Again, there's a lot of short-term thinking, and I get it. The temptation is great to think short-term, but ABC is in its 58th year because it has engaged in long-term thinking for a long, long time. Most organizations never make it past 42 years. That's the life. If you survive the first 5 years in business, 42 years. And that's a stat I heard from one of my professors. Most organizations last 42 years.
It's popular in a lot of management, grad school, I don't know, wherever you might learn these type of things, to focus on, even in nonprofit management, about a lot of organizations want you when you're out there seeking additional leadership or developing leadership, that you know where your gaps are.
Yeah.
Right? It could be the personality type or the leadership type, and these different assessments. Some people will just make it simple fact of diversity of
thought.
Well, thought's rarely ever, diversity of thought is usually not the focus.
Right.
So it's people that think just a diversity of where you come from or your skin color or tone or whatnot is somehow going to automatically impart some kind of
value to the
diversity in terms of your approach or your experiences or whatnot.
Yeah.
If that's what we really want and that's what's really advantageous, then let's ask about that. So, but in any event, I wanted to ask you about your thoughts on that. That a lot of attention is paid to that. Be mindful of what type of personality leaders you have. Or you don't want all C's and you don't want all whatever.
Right.
You want a diversity on your board. And is this one of the ways to help avoid this?
That's a really good question. I think I think you and I have been around long enough to realize that diversity is, and I mean diversity in sort of the capital D sense of the word, right? Diversity is, to me, subservient to shared values. If the staff and the leadership and the executive team doesn't share the values, and remember our episode on means, do the means justify the ends? That whole episode, we were really related to that, because if you don't share the values, the means are going to be all over the place.
Yeah. It also ties into our conversation about immigration in my book. Yeah. You can have tremendous diversity in terms of this country, which is why we've traditionally been a great melting pot. But it's because we did have a shared value in terms of the things that Marco Rubio clip and others about having a shared purpose of.
I mean, you guys can't see this, but there's children of immigrants from different countries in this room right now that are sitting around this table, right? Our staff is made up of all sorts of first generation, second generation immigrants from all sorts of countries. Like, there is a huge diversity of racially and socioeconomic and national origin and ABC. But I can tell you what, the thing that motivates all of us is our passion for the mission and the fact that we share the values as to how to pursue those, right? And I think that has what's led ABC to be around for 58 years, and that's what's going to lead ABC to be around for the next 58 years, is because there is an understanding that we exist to serve a mission, and that mission and the values that are sort of wrapped up around that mission, we all agree on.
So if you had to summarize for Tucker, what would you say? What are the ways, the most important ways in which, as an individual and as an organization, that we want to avoid?
I would tell Tucker.
What was Tucker's mistake?
That's a great question. I think Tucker's mistake is that he is so, and I say this hesitatingly because I really don't know Tucker's real motivations. So let's put those aside, and his motivations could contribute and be a part of all sorts of issues to this. But I think Tucker's huge mistake.
That's an important point, though. Motivation matters.
Right, motivation matters. Yeah. And I can't. Now, obviously, I don't know Tucker's motivation, and I think motivation is profoundly related to shared values as people who work towards a shared mission. And I think this really applies to for-profit, nonprofit, any of that. I think for a bunch of people to come together, right? And I hate using this word, but to form a collective, to go be successful at something, right? Why do companies hire people? Companies hire people because together they can achieve more than apart.
That's so I don't want to really, but I'm fascinated by this whole how we are divided as a country, as a world, over what's currently happening in Iran. So for 47, because is that at its core, what we're looking at is the fact that we don't have shared values or shared mission.
We don't have shared values in this country.
So because from my perspective, I don't understand how. I've lived a life of 47 years of death to America, of holding hostages, of executing people, of exporting jihad and global instability and proxy wars.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing it in holding free navigation hostage. We've seen it in terms of development of a nuclear weapon from somebody that, let's face it, there are differences. There are people that might have a nuclear weapon that understand the weight, versus people that just, if they had it, they would be like, if it helped pursue their political objectives or their global objectives of instability and jihad, they'd use it in a heartbeat. And I just don't understand how we don't, how somebody smart like Tucker Carlson cannot see, I'm hoping, for example, Marco Rubio recently had a meeting with the Pope, and I get, as a Catholic in particular, that the church is always going to be a voice for peace. But we also have a longstanding tradition of justifiable war. And I'm hoping that Marco Rubio laid out very strongly to the Pope the fact that we were weeks, in fact, months away, and you either believe this or you don't, which is getting back to the shared values and shared mission. So either share the value of the fact that they were imminent or very imminent to being able to, even if it was low-level sophistication, it wouldn't take much.
Yeah.
And we couldn't let that happen. And somehow we're not seeing eye to eye on that. You can't even get the UN We've talked about this before. And the world to see eye to eye on the fact that freedom of navigation is actually in the UN Charter. Yeah. It's actually a world. It's actually, and yet the globe can't come together on opening up that Strait of Hormuz.
Right. Well, we could do a whole episode on UN hypocrisy and incompetency. That's a whole different.
Let's.
We should. We could come back to that. But I think the problem we have as a country right now.
But it's quite significant. It's not a shared mission. It kind of drives home the point that if you don't have that shared values and shared mission, and maybe every difference or whatever boils down to that. I don't know.
When you were 40 years old, what percentage of this country did you think believed that America was an inherently evil country that needed to be brought to its knees? That lived in this country and were U.S. citizens who believed that?
5%.
5%. Yeah. I mean, I would have even thought less than that, right?
Loonies.
That I never, my whole life growing up, as a son of immigrants.
Now they actually leaders of one of our major Democratic or major political parties, actually.
You're listening to Democrats on TV talking about how they believe the Ayatollah over the president.
Yeah.
And I get it. Like, listen, I listen to this guy rant and rave on social media. I'm like, please, dude, just stop, right? Stop talking about this stuff. This has no impact. Your obsession with celebrity and all of that. I get it. Like, this is not, nobody's pretending that we have the perfect president. But like this whole idea that America needs to be brought to its knees, it has taken off in a way. And I know why. It's taken off because we gave up a long time ago on our education system. We really did. We were like, forget it. It belongs to the left. The left can have it. And this is the impact of that. There's a whole generation of people who are like, yep, America's a colonialist, white supremacist, this, that, blah, 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 needs to be brought to its knees. And it doesn't matter what the means are because the ends justify it, right? I mean, the Germans used to face this in the 70s. There's been groups of radicals for a long, long, long time that have been like, it's my country, it's my whatever, but it needs to be brought down a notch because it has destroyed the rest of the world. And that's an absurd calculation. If you had any understanding of history, you could argue that point, but most people don't. Most people don't understand how the world works. Most people don't understand the impact quality of life has. Most people don't understand lifespan and how people live longer now than they ever have. And there's all sorts of misunderstandings on it. And again, this always happens, right? This always happens when you yourself don't have to worry about food, shelter, and clothing. When, this is like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. When your basic necessities are met, this is the kind of nonsense you can indulge your brain in.
Absolutely.
And this is the kind of nonsense you get to
That's a really important point.
Right? Because you don't have to worry about it. But the rest of the world is still worried about how to get their next meal, how to get shelter, how to how to get their clothes. And you live in a country where you don't have to worry about any of that.
Yep.
And then you go down this path, and this is the crap you come up with. And I'm just...
So is it inevitable that successful societies are kind of...
I mean, yeah, they decline. This happens every time. The Romans did it, the Greeks did it, the Egyptians did it. Yeah. Every time you hit peak prosperity, this is.
So if we answer the question though about how to avoid this, how to help avoid this?
Yeah, you can as an organization. Don't ever get comfortable in your success. That's
beautiful.
Right? Don't ever get comfortable like we have this figured out. We have the problem solved.
Because then you just start to worry about silly, superfluous stuff.
Absolutely. There was a huge, I think it was a Forbes magazine or Fortune magazine. I can't remember. It was one of those two magazines. In 2007, summer, it had the CEO of Nokia on it. And the magazine article was titled, "Will Anybody Take Down Nokia?" And that September or that October, the iPhone came out, right? And decimated Nokia. Mm-hmm. I've used this in our internal staff meetings. Don't ever get comfortable in your success. Don't ever think this has been solved.
I love that. What a great way to end.
Yeah.
Anyway, two-part series on this. So don't ever. Would you say it again?
Don't ever get comfortable in your success, and don't ever assume you have it all figured out because you got new problems coming at you every day. And
because I've seen it a lot over my years. It's a lot easier to just don't rock the boat.
Right. Don't rock the boat.
Just steady as you go. Yeah. Instead of trying to constantly figure out ways of improving.
So it's not just about new opportunities, because we're always looking for new opportunities.
Okay.
It's also about new threats. It's also it's also more than new ways to leverage our success, right? Yeah. I mean, you and I have
had that hours ago.
Right. You and I have had multiple conversations about ideas and things that we are in the process of executing now that will make ABC a unique defender of our, not just of our values, but of our industry, right? And all of the things that we're executing on now, that we're planning on now, that we're negotiating now, are meant to allow us to fulfill our mission in a way we've never done before. And that's sort of what this organization has a history of doing for 58 years. Right? 58 years, people came in, people took risks, people executed in a way and defended our industry in a way that nobody else could. And it hasn't been all peaches and cream. It's not all land of milk and honey. Mm-hmm. There's been failures. There's been setbacks. Things happen. But you got to understand, 1, shared values, and 2, shared mission, and 3, never, ever, ever believing that you have figured it all out. I think that's how you succeed as an organization.
Mic drop. Excellent. Way to bring it full circle.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. That was part 2 of our 2-part series, Hidden Dangers Your Organization Faces, but it's a lot deeper than that. So, if you didn't hear the previous part, make sure you check it out. Have a great weekend. Thank you for joining us and for listening to our show. We will be back next Friday with a new episode.
And for comments, send us an email at theobvious@abceastflorida.com. Until next time, ciao.